Engineering perfection isn't only found in pricey supercars. An everyday Ford Mondeo has plenty of it, especially since engine improvements have kept it in front of its medium-range Vauxhall Insignia, Renault Laguna and Volkswagen Passat class rivals. This third generation version is a very complete product. Times have changed, and the Ford Mondeo has changed with them. Once a mascot of New Labour, today Mondeo Man is a far more sophisticated person. He doesn't feel the need to pay extra for a German premium badge on the bonnet of his company car, when this Ford is bigger, sharper to drive, better equipped, and in some ways better finished. Private buyers can see the logic too, but there simply aren't as many of them as there used to be. The traditional medium-range market plundered by MPVs and SUVs. Ford's response to this was pragmatic. For the third generation Mondeo, a platform was developed from which Galaxy and S-Max MPVs could also be constructed. All three models are built at the company's Belgium Genk factory, with production volumes altered to meet demand. And it's worked well. The MPV models have gained rave reviews, while the third generation Mondeo crushed Vectra, Passat and Laguna rivals firmly into submission at its launch in 2007. Since then, though, those models and others like them have improved hugely, forcing this car to once again evolve, this time under the bonnet, if it's to stay ahead of the game. Have the changes been enough to keep it on top? Let's find out. Now, when I first drove this car back in 2007, it's fair to say that, like some other journalists, I was a tiny bit disappointed. The previous second generation model was so sharp in its responses, so pointy in its steering, that this car, good though it was, by comparison felt just that little bit laid back and languid. A few years and a few thousand miles on, however, I've no such reservations. I've come to realise that where the old model reacted, this one just flows. It's sophisticated enough to be involving only when you want it to be. Other cars require adaptive or sport suspension to feel this good, and though the Mondeo offers those options too, the difference here is that it doesn't really need them. The ride's absorbent, yet you're in touch always with what the car's doing. Refinement's excellent, and at the wheel all the controls work with beautiful precision. Even if you're not really any kind of driving enthusiast, the overriding impression in the first 100 yards is that it just feels right. It's all down to the ultra-rigid body shell, the clever fluid-filled suspension mountings, and, well, forget all that. You don't really need to know how it works. Just take it from me. It's right. So, is there a downside? Well, if this car had any kind of Achilles heel from launch, it was probably weight. All the extra technology it had to carry brought with it a portly penalty of around 175 kilograms over the previous generation model. And that meant the mainstream petrol units struggled a bit, while the diesel engines lost their edge in efficiency. Now, Ford's response was to introduce an efficient and much torquier 203 PS 2-litre EcoBoost SCTI petrol engine, whilst tweaking the 2-litre Duratorque TDCI diesels to stage 5, snatching back the efficiency losses and propelling them back to the top of their class. Now, viewed in this light, the Mondeo's older 120 and 145 PS 1.6 and 2-litre petrol engines look a little old hat, and you can see why so many customers ignore them and go for the 2-litre diesel that I'm driving here. It's available in 115 and 140 PS guises, but I've got the top 163 PS version under the bonnet of this car. Rest to 60 in comfortably under 9 seconds, on the way to a top speed well in excess of 130 miles an hour. I can't really see why you'd want to go much faster than that. Before this car arrived, Fords had begun to look rather clinical, a little over-functional. We were all told that they were great to drive, but we didn't feel they were going to be when we saw one in the driveway. Fortunately, this Mondeo has moved things on a bit. British styling director Martin Smith has created a more arresting shape that's a little longer and taller and much wider than the second generation model. Emphasised wheel arches, the kicked up waistline, the large air intake low in the front valance. Whether you opt for this 5-door hatch, the estate, or a minority interest 4-door saloon, it's all more distinctive and of much higher quality inside. It's not quite Audi, BMW and Mercedes like. Things like the cheaper plastic on the glove box lid give the game away. But it's astonishingly close for a mainstream brand, with tasteful aluminium decor and piano black lacquer inserts, offering a real premium touch to those who wisely avoid the fake wood of the gear model. At the wheel, the high window line pushes you into driving with the height adjustable seat well cranked up, and it's not that easy to judge the extremities of the car, particularly when you're reversing. Still, the seat is brilliantly supportive and there's loads of adjustment that enables you to quickly perfect your perch. Where you particularly notice the extra space on offer from that bigger shape is here in the back. 3 large adults on the back seat of an Audi A4 or a BMW 3 Series is a squash that's only marginally improved if you opt for something mainstream like a Vauxhall Insignia or a Renault Laguna. Here, it's no problem at all, with superb space for shoulders, legs and heads. Wide opening doors and minimal wheel arch intrusion mean that it's easy to get in and out too. And nice touches on plusher versions like this one include these rear cabin vents built into the B-pillars. Out back, the boot too is huge and very well shaped, with shopping bag hooks and 4 tie-downs to keep things in place should you get a bit carried away by the Mondeo's dynamic repertoire. With all the seats in place in this 5-door hatch, you've got 528 litres, which you can extend to 1,448 litres if you flatten the 60-40 split folding rear bench. Go for the estate model and those figures rise to 542 litres with all the seats in place and 1,733 litres if you flatten the decks. List pricing suggests that you're going to be paying somewhere between £17,500 and £27,500 for your Mondeo, with an £1,100 premium if you want the estate rather than this 5-door hatch. There's the usual £1,000 premium if you want a diesel over a comparable petrol engine. Now, those prices aren't cheap, but that's partly because Ford doesn't offer a poverty spec model these days, keen not to sell you a Mondeo you wouldn't be proud to own. As you'd expect, the pricing's tight against rivals like Vauxhall's Insignia and Renault's Laguna. At the end of the day, it's a buyer's market and it's down to you to get the best deal. Under the bonnet, diesel rules in this sector, and the Mondeo's Stage 5 2-litre TDCi Duratorque diesels are amongst the very best around, offered in 115, 140 and 163 PS guises. There are the usual 1.6 and 2-litre petrol alternatives, but if you can afford it, the very best petrol choice is the 203 PS SCTI EcoBoost engine, which comes with another fresh piece of technology, a 6-speed twin-clutch automatic transmission that's optional on the most powerful diesels. Spec-wise, with powerful competition in this sector, Ford has made very sure that all the right showroom features are in place. Even basic models come fitted with features like air conditioning, cruise control, a leather-covered steering wheel, a high-quality MP3 compatible CD stereo, heated front windscreen, electric front windows, remote control central locking, Bluetooth phone compatibility and heated electric door mirrors. Now, safety-wise, you get ABS with EBA brake assist and 7 airbags, including a driver's knee airbag, plus the peace of mind of ESP stability control. Here's where Ford's most recent engine changes have really paid off. The 2-litre TDCi 140 PS variant that most Mondeo customers choose now returns 53.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 139 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, those improvements over the original version of this car will save you around £135 on your tax disc, because it's come down from pricey vehicle excise band G now to band E. At the pumps, Ford reckoned that the efficiency improvements of this 2-litre TDCi engine would save you around £658 over 60,000 miles. Even the pokey 203 PS SCTI 2-litre EcoBoost petrol engine delivers on its promises here, capable of 35 to 40 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, even with an automatic gearbox, and CO2 returns of well under 190 grams per kilometre. So, petrol or diesel? Well, here's one clever touch I really like. If you arrive at the fuel filling station and temporarily forget what kind of engine's beating beneath the bonnet, well, Ford have thought ahead to help in your plight. There are clever spring-loaded tabs around the nozzle opening here, and unless they're displaced, it'll be pretty much impossible to put petrol in a diesel Mondeo like this one. Neat. Ford has even thought about reducing accident costs. This sacrificial panel, a body-cutted plastic section that protects the steel pressing beneath in the event of a minor knock, is another example of almost fanatical attention to detail. Insurance groupings start from 12E in the 1 to 50 scale. Before I came back and drove this car again for this film, I'd forgotten just how good it was. This Ford always got the basics right: packaging, comfort and convenience, and with an improved and more efficient engine lineup, it's now back in front of more recently introduced rivals, none of whom can match its driving experience. With private buyers back on Ford's radar for their bigger models, it needs to ooze showroom appeal, and it does, which is just as well given the prices being asked. By most measures, the Mondeo is a great example of what a big company can do when it aligns its resources and focuses on a target. It's not perfect, but it's closer to being perfect than all its key rivals, and that's enough.